Hello and welcome to this review of the Destroy All Humans 2020 remake. The original Destroy All Humans came out in 2005 for the PS2 and original Xbox, and I have very fond memories of it despite its numerous flaws. But this isn't about the original game, this is about the remake, which I have on PS4. So, how does it compare to the original? Let's take a look. Rather than talking about the remake in the context of reviewing it as its own entity, I'm instead going to be talking primarily about what changes it makes to the original game and if it's worth playing over that. Maybe one day I'll review the original game and go into more detail about the story, gameplay and other details like that, but for now, I'm more interested in talking about the differences between the two versions. First of all, the most immediately apparent change is that the graphics have been improved fairly significantly. Everything looks a lot crisper, Crypto the Alien's model is the best it's ever looked, and generally the game looks pretty great. There are some key areas though that let the game's presentation down, such as fairly frequent frame dropping when things get too chaotic, and at times outright abysmal cutscene presentation. Not only do cutscenes drop frames, but they also suffer from texture popping, character models looking downright ugly, especially with the humans, and certain moments where there'll be jump cuts, making the action appearing on screen look inconsistent and jarring, and then there's also issues where the cutscenes won't load in fast enough, and you'll miss sections of voiceover that are vital to understanding the full context of your mission. Take a look at this example, where if I didn't have subtitles on, I wouldn't have heard the first half of a sentence.
A mutated species.
The voice acting is decent enough, but what I found strange is that none of it was re-recorded, and instead the lines were taken from the original game and reused. This is very strange, and it's normally the sort of thing you would see in a remaster rather than a ground-up remake, and shows that maybe the developers weren't given a lot of money or time to work with. This also means that because no dialogue is new, there's no major new content to be found. There's a mission included that was cut from the original game, but that's nothing too special, and to be honest, I didn't even notice it was new content when I was playing through it. I'm pretty sure that the music was just taken from the original game too, which is another element that comes across as slightly unambitious on the developer's end, and it's another situation where despite the music being good in the original, there's moments where a remake could have kicked the action into a higher gear through the use of more intense music which wasn't present in the original. There's moments in the remake where there straight up isn't any music, and it makes things feel extremely anticlimactic. Literally, even the final boss has no music, and to be honest, the final boss in general is utterly terrible and should have been improved dramatically in the remake. But bizarrely, the remake actually makes very few changes to the original. Some of these changes should have been no-brainer decisions as well. I won't show the final boss here just because I don't want to show spoilers in what's technically a brand new game, but holy god. It takes ages to whittle down the health, and they regenerate it twice during the battle. They have the ability to one-hit your shields, and some of their attacks just feel janky to such an extent that it's unfair. Add to that the fact that it's underwhelming due to not having any music, and yeah, this fight really annoyed me. It took me over an hour to get past, and it's literally one of the most annoying things I've experienced in a game for a long time. I hated it. It's not all bad though, because the remake does make a couple of changes to the original game that work out for the better. Firstly, Crypto has access to a few new abilities, such as the new dash move, which can be upgraded to allow him to skate across the floor at high speeds to get around much quicker. He can also now transmog certain objects to turn them into ammo for his 4 weapons, which is an improvement over the original, where ammo would just be placed randomly in the world, which really makes no sense and caused issues with certain missions not giving you enough ammo. The flying saucer has also been improved by allowing you to drain humans and vehicles to recharge your shields or gather DNA, which is the currency used for the upgrades. Really though, I kind of expected a little bit more from this remake. The arsenal you have access to, both as Crypto and the Flying Saucer, is identical to the original game, and some new guns or abilities could have breathed some new life into it. It's debatable that the psychic abilities that Crypto has access to are actually worse in the remake than in the original in some ways. For example, when using telekinesis, you can't move things closer or further away from you anymore. You can't choose to simply drop things you're holding if you've already committed to throwing it. You can't pick stuff up while remaining undetected when you're disguised as a human, because it will just instantly blow your cover. You can't as easily pick up larger objects like cars or robots, which makes you feel significantly less powerful than in the original game. And as I said before, you don't have any new abilities to allow you to better mess around with the humans either. Sure, you have the ability to make humans dance, causing a distraction, you can make them follow you, and you can make them forget about you, but this was all stuff that you could do in the original game. The two new things you can do though are jump while disguised as a human, which is a small but good addition to the game, and you can also pick someone or something up and shoot while holding that particular thing, which is again a pretty good addition. But overall, these two things don't make up for the amount that they took out of the original game and the amount of things they should have added to make the game better. I mean, some of my biggest issues with the original game just straight up haven't been addressed here. Like how you need to quit out of the levels to activate the next mission, rather than just being able to go straight to it in the world itself. The loading times being ridiculously long, taking upwards of an entire minute just to retry missions or enter a level. Certain missions still feel finicky and have instant failure criteria, which feels unbelievably dated. Like this mission where you're escorting a truck carrying a nuke, but you can't make it stop and clear the way, and rather it just presses forward into danger, despite quite clearly not making any sense at all. Then there's also the missions that will instantly fail you for getting spotted, but then there's others that don't fail you for getting spotted, despite being in similar situations. It really feels all over the place, and a lot more care should have been put into updating the missions and potentially adding more as well as cutting others. There's some insane difficulty spikes throughout the game as well, which by today's standards just ends up making the game feel a bit stupid. You'll go from a mission which feels unfairly difficult at times to a mission which takes about 5 minutes to complete and feels way too easy and just like filler content. The stealth in the game is about as bare bones as it gets too. You can take the form of any human you come across, and certain people will be able to access restricted areas. Then later in the game there's enemies who can see through your disguise if you get too close, but beyond that, there's just no complexity about it. You can just run around anywhere you want so long as you stay away from the people who can detect you, and you're extremely limited in what you can do while disguised too. This ends up making one of the more interesting ideas the game has feel a bit shallow. It could have been more like a Hitman game with its disguise system and based missions around killing people without being detected or something, but there's nothing like that here. Most of the time you'll just get bored of being disguised after a few seconds and just resort to blowing everything up normally, which in my opinion was a huge missed opportunity that could have been rectified in the remake. Overall, I'm super disappointed with this game. I loved the original and the second game in the series, but the remake makes so few changes to that original game that it's kind of debatable as to which one you should play if you want to give it a go. The side content is definitely better in the remake, with every main story mission giving you side objectives to complete which unlock bonus DNA, concept art and skins for Crypto. When you revisit previous levels, there's also free roaming side missions to partake in too, which work a lot better than in the original game because they actually register as being completed. Whereas in the original, you could just do them over and over again, and they never registered as being completed, or even registered a high score or anything like that. They just felt like a complete afterthought. In the remake, you have a selection of 4 missions in every level, and you're given a rating based on how well you did. So the better you do, the more DNA you get, and the more you can upgrade yourself. The issue with this system is that you'll most likely be doing this side stuff after finishing the main story, and by that point there's no reason to upgrade yourself because there's nothing to keep you hooked after you've done the missions. It's not very engaging just shooting and killing humans for hours on end, and while there are hidden collectibles to find, that's not enough to keep you coming back for more. While I'm normally quite critical of open world games that have tons of recycled content like bandit camps and towers to climb which slowly fill in a world map, I feel like Destroy All Humans needed something like that to give you something to focus on after finishing the main game and make you want to get all of the upgrades. I will admit though, I liked the skins you could unlock for Crypto, and that added something else to aim towards unlocking that wasn't in the original game. I feel like they could have put way more into the game though, because there's not very many at all. It turns out in a really scummy move that you can actually buy more skins for £7.99 as a separate microtransaction, but these really should have just have been in the game and you shouldn't have needed to pay anything more to get access to them. I really don't know what the thinking was behind this decision, but these skins definitely should have just have been in the game considering that there's hardly any there to begin with. Overall, the remake of Destroy All Humans is just really annoying. This could have been something absolutely amazing, but the developers stuck far too close to the original game and it ends up feeling like an enhanced remaster instead of a remake. Maybe my expectation of a remake has been built up too high after playing stuff like the Resident Evil remakes, but that's kind of the thing I wanted here. I feel like they could have done something really interesting here, like they could have changed the tone of the game to be darker and more violent. And it definitely should have dramatically changed the mission structure and enhanced the stealth system, as well as giving you more abilities and weapons. Even putting all of that aside though, I think I would have been a lot happier with this if it had been a remake of both Destroy All Humans 1 and 2, because as it stands, the game is pretty damn short, and given its lack of attention to detail and lack of improvements made to the original game, I think it's quite badly overpriced. This is a very strange situation I find myself in, because it's not like the game itself is bad, it's just dated. But a game that's coming out in 2020 shouldn't feel dated when you're playing it on release. Obviously I get that it's a remake of a game that's quite old at this point, but isn't that the point of a remake? To bring it more in line with today's standards and make it feel fresh again? At the end of the day, it's just Destroy All Humans 1, but again, and I really like that game, so I should really like this game too as a result of that. But it's probably the most pointless remake I've ever seen, making so little changes to the original and in some ways being worse. It's actually very similar to the remake of Medieval in that aspect, but the flaws with Destroy All Humans were more numerous and apparent than in Medieval, and so I expected more to be changed here than I did with that. Plus, Medieval was a PS1 game, and so was probably more in need of a remake in terms of visuals than Destroy All Humans was. The best way of summing this up is by saying it's a bad remake of a good game. That good game is still here, and it still has moments of being incredibly satisfying with its combat, and does have its moments with being pretty funny too, although I do have to admit that certain elements of its humour haven't aged very well at all. But for the most part, it doesn't really take itself too seriously, so it avoids causing any major offence.
They eat with their mouths? I think I'm going to be violently ill.
I think my issue with this game really boils down to the fact that if you want to experience the good game that's underneath the remake, you could just play the original game. The remake adds nothing of any real value on top of the original game, therefore kinda making it pointless. You know what makes this situation even more strange? The original Destroy All Humans is available on the PS4 store as a PlayStation Classics title, meaning it also has upscaled HD graphics as well as trophy support. Plus, it's significantly cheaper than the remake, and you can also get the second game on there, and both of them combined would still work out to be around the same price as the remake. And they're both extremely frequently on sale for absurdly cheap as well. So this just ends up making the remake even more unnecessary, because I imagine some people would make the argument that at least the remake is making it more accessible for people. But you can literally get the original on modern hardware, so really, it isn't even doing that. It doesn't even add in any of the amazing quality of life improvements that the sequel added, or any of the more interesting extras, like a co-op mode or the ability to see where the collectibles are on the map, or the far more destructive and vast arsenal of weapons. It's really lackluster, and honestly, I would probably recommend the original game over the remake, just because it's less janky in a lot of areas, the telekinesis is better, and I would even go as far as to say that the graphics are more charming too. But I don't know, maybe that last point is just the nostalgia talking. Jeez, I haven't been this disappointed with a brand new game release for quite a long time. All I can hope for now is that this doesn't completely kill the series, and then maybe eventually we can get a brand new game which continues the story on from Path of the Furon. It's not that the remake is outright bad, it's just that it's so similar to the original that if you've already played that, you've pretty much already played the remake. So yeah, just bear in mind that I'm judging this game as a remake and not as its own game. I don't want it to come across like I absolutely hate the original game, because that can't be further from the truth. And to be honest, that's kind of why I expected more from the remake in the first place, because I enjoy the original game so much. Even though this video has been a bit of a downer, give it a like if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment down below letting me know if you've been playing the remake too. It would be interesting to get somebody's opinion of the game who hasn't played the original and is coming at the remake with fresh eyes. Also, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this coming soon, and until next time, bye!